Welcome to Lesson 64 in Saxon's second edition of Algebra 1/2. Now the title of the lesson in the book is Using Both Rules to Solve Equations. I've titled it Two-Step Equations. You're going to need to do two different things to solve for x or n or whatever your variable is. So usually you're going to have to add or subtract something first, and then you're going to have to multiply or divide. I've given you a couple of examples here. This first one here is kind of small. Look closely. 2/3 x minus 2 equals 4. So the first step, I'm going to have to add 2 to both sides. And then I have 2/3 x equals 6. And then in step 2, I'm going to have to invert that 2/3 and multiply on both sides. So you see I had to add first and then I had to divide. Alright, here in example number 2, you've got negative 3x plus 4 equals 16. Well, the first thing you're going to have to do is get rid of this 4. I always say try to get rid of whatever's closest to the equal sign first. It really doesn't matter which you do first, but usually it works out easier if you'll do it that way. So, to get rid of this plus 4, we'll have to minus 4 on both sides, and then we have negative 3x equals 12, and then we'll have to divide by negative 3 on both sides to get x is equal to negative 4. And then finally, I have example 3 here. 2/3 x minus 1/2 equals 10/3. Now here I had to do kind of almost another little step. I've got to add 1/2 to both sides, but I can't do that until I find my common denominator for 3 and 2, which is 6. And then I get equivalent fractions. Now I can actually add those two and I get 23 over 6. So now I'm left with 2/3 x equals 23 over 6. Then I'm going to invert and multiply by 3 over 2, and then I'll get my answer of 23 over 4. Alright, here again in this example, 2 and 1/3 x minus 1 and 1/5 equals 23 over 10. Alright, so the first thing I've got to do is negative 1 and 1/5 is close to the equal, so to get rid of that I'm going to have a positive 1 and 1/5, or I'm going to have to add. Now to do that, I'm going to have to find a common denominator, but first I wanted to turn that 1 and 1/5 into an improper fraction. Just makes it a little easier. So I did all of that and got my common denominator of 10, got my equivalent of fractions, and then I added 23 and 12 for 35 over 10. Then I went ahead and made the 2 and 1/3 an improper. So I had 7 over 3x equals 35 over 10. Then I go through. It looks like a little more work up in this top portion to get me down to 7/3 x equals 35 over 10. But then it's pretty easy. I invert and multiply, and then I get 15 over 10, which I know will reduce to 1 and 1/2. Alright, so let's do your practice problems. 2/3 x minus 1/6 equals 1/2. 1/6 is closest to the equals. It's been subtracted, so I'm going to add 1/6 to both sides. That gets rid of this, and I have 2/3 x equals, got to have a common denominator. It is going to be 6. 1/2 is 3 over 6. So I have 2/3 x equals 4 over 6. I'm going to invert and multiply. I can cross cancel here. I I can also cross cancel here. 2 over 2 here gives me 1. So my answer to A is 1. Alright, in B, let's go ahead and turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. It's going to be 5 over 2x plus 1/8 equals 1/4. 1/8 is the closest to the equal sign. It's been added, so I'm going to subtract, which means I've got to get a common denominator over here. 5 over 2x equals, alright, this one's going to stay 8, this is 1/8, this is going to be 2/8, and 2/8 minus 1/8 is 1/8. And then I'm going to invert and multiply. Cross cancel when I can. Here I can cross cancel. And I'm left with 1 over 20 as my answer. Alright, in C, I'm also going to go ahead and make this an improper fraction. 5 over 4x minus 1/3 equals 3/5. So I'm going to add 1/3 to both sides. Because the 1/3 was closest to the equal and it had been subtracted. Now that leaves me with 5/4 x equals, again I'm going to have to find a common denominator to add these fractions. It is going to be 15, so both of these are going to need to be changed. This becomes 5 over 15 and this becomes 9. I'm adding, so I get 14 over 15. Next I'm going to invert and multiply on both sides. Cross cancel where I can. 14 times 4 is 56. 15 times 5 is 75, and that's my answer. Alright, one more. 2/7 x plus 1/5 equals 2 1/10. Alright, so I'm going to need to subtract 1/5 from both sides. Got to get a common denominator for these two. It is going to be 10. 1/10 minus 2/10. Can't do that, so I'm going to need to take this 2 and make it a 1 and add 10/10 here to get a total of 11/10. And I can take 2 away from 11 and I'll get 9/10. And then this 1 right here, I need to remember to bring it down. 1 9/10. Alright, 2/7 x equals. Let's go ahead and change this into 19/10. Then we're going to invert and multiply. And then we're going to do the math here. Cross cancel where we can. Alright, 19 times 7. Well, I know that 20 times 7 is 140, so 140 minus 7 would be 133 over 20. And you can just leave it like that. You can reduce it if you want to, but we're going to allow you just to leave it as 133 over 20. Alright, good job. Don't get nervous about this. You already know how to do both of these things. You're just putting them together in one problem. That's the only difference. Again, we're building.